What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, May 9th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 15:18 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from India and Pakistan. I wanted to update you guys on the situation over there. So we have major breaking news coming in from Pakistan. So a nuclear war could break out at any time if India continues strikes, Pakistan's defense minister has warned. Defense Minister Khawaja Asif gave the stark warning in an interview with Pakistani TV channel Geo News. The minister said if India imposes an all-out war on the region, and if such dangers arise in which there is a standoff, then at any time a nuclear war can break out. He added, if they aggravate this, then if a chance of war arises in which there is a sign of nuclear option being used on both sides, then the responsibility for that will be on India. Wow. Okay, so the Pakistani defense minister warning that a nuclear war can break out if India imposes an all-out war. And the reason why is that India has a bigger military than Pakistan, so Pakistan would resort to nuclear weapons to level the playing field, okay? And right now we have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert. We have a U.S. presidential Doomsday plane that's been up in the air for the last few hours. It took off from Offutt Air Base, and it is now doing touch and goes in Lincoln, Nebraska. A presidential Doomsday plane is for the U.S. president. He goes on this plane during a nuclear war or some kind of a cataclysmic event, and he can command the entire U.S. military from the air on this plane, okay? We also have a nuclear war command and control plane, a Boeing E-6B Mercury, up in the air, and it's heading out to the Gulf of America, and it's getting ready to transmit to our submerged nuclear-armed submarines. Now, these planes are responsible for communicating with our nuclear forces. They're critical. So what they do is they can send out VLF, very low frequency messages, to our submerged nuclear armed submarines, and they can send out targeting information, which is known as emergency action messages, and even launch orders. Okay, they can also remotely control all of our Minuteman III ICBMs and launch them from the air. So one of these is going into the Gulf. And what's interesting is we haven't heard hardly any emergency action messages in several days. Not even a single emergency action message for the last several days, which means that our nuclear forces are on very, very high alert. They're basically just sitting and waiting, okay? But this E6 going into the Gulf this afternoon could be a sign that even more escalation is imminent, and they're getting ready to transmit codes to our nuclear forces. We also have this recon plane patrolling the border of Texas and Mexico, and we also have a B-52 nuclear bomber that was airborne over Kansas. It's returning to Barksdale right now. And interestingly, we also had an RC-135 rivet joint reconnaissance plane take off from Offutt Air Base and fly to Louisiana, and it was doing this east to west loop over northern Louisiana and eastern Texas, and it was looking down into the Gulf, okay? And if you remember my video from earlier in the week, I showed you guys the AWACS plane that was in the Gulf, and we had two sub hunters, and then there was a nuke sniffer in the Gulf. Well, now we have this strategic reconnaissance plane looking into the Gulf of America. Okay, these planes have a side-looking radar, so when it's flying east to west, it's actually looking north and south. So it's checking out the Gulf for some reason, okay? And we have some very disturbing predictive programming I want to share with you. So In 2019, there was a study done about a nuclear war scenario between Pakistan and India. It was done by Science Advances. It was on October 2nd, and the simulation involved a nuclear war between Pakistan and India in 2025. Isn't that crazy, guys? Okay, now in addition to this study done on October 2nd, 2019 in Science Advances, you can look it up for yourself. Call of Duty Black Ops 2, the whole plot of the game revolves around a war in Pakistan in 2025, and it involves drones and futuristic technology. So lots of predictive programming about Pakistan and India and a nuclear war in 2025. Let me just read to you about this study. A nuclear war between India and Pakistan, which share a long history of conflicts, would not only result in 50 to 125 million direct fatalities, but could jeopardize the entire planet, causing sharp drops in global temperatures and precipitation that could devastate the world's food supply, according to a new study published October 2nd in Science Advances. Okay, and this was in 2019, okay, 6 years ago. The authors evaluated a simulated nuclear war scenario for the year 2025 between the two countries based on advice from policy and military experts. They find that if Pakistan attacks urban targets in 2025 with 150 nuclear weapons, and if India responds with 100 nuclear weapons, depending on the size of the weapons ranging from 15 to 100 kiloton, smoke from burning cities would release 16 to 36 teragrams of black carbon into the atmosphere, blocking out sunlight and cooling the global surface by 2 to 5 degrees Celsius. Global average precipitation would drop by 15 to 30%, and the rate at which plants store energy as biomass would decline by 15 to 30% on land and 5 to 15% in oceans, threatening mass starvation. Although Pakistan attacks first in this scenario, the researchers do not think Pakistan would be more likely than India to initiate conflict, and they expect the results would be similar in both cases. Okay, so this is just really, really bizarre. Okay, there was a study done in 2019 about a nuclear war between Pakistan and India, causing basically a nuclear winter. Okay, absolutely insane. And the Houthis launched another ballistic missile at Israel this morning. Flights at Ben Gurion Airport were halted. Israeli defense sources say a Houthi ballistic missile fired from Yemen toward Israel a short while ago was successfully intercepted by the Arrow long-range air defense system. Apparently, the American THAAD system deployed in Israel also attempted an interception but missed. For the second time this week, this came after Trump struck a ceasefire deal with the Houthis that did not include Israel, causing outrage in Israel and the severing of ties between Trump and Netanyahu. And the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz says the Houthis continue to launch Iranian missiles towards Israel, and he vowed a powerful response in Yemen and wherever else needed. And Pakistan's military spokesman Ahmad Chaudhry has declared, "We are at war with India." And Pakistan's defense minister Khawaja Asif said, "We do not have any other option other than a full-blown war. We have to repay them in the same way. War is at our front door. There should be no doubt about this." Wow. And we're hearing of blackouts being reported in several cities in India and India-administered Kashmir. And 2 Indian airlines have canceled flights to several Indian cities. India's flag carrier Air India and budget Indian airline Indigo both announced today they were canceling flights into several Indian cities, including Srinagar, until at least Thursday. And China has raised its alert level along their border with the Kashmir region in response to the escalating tensions. Trump today called for de-escalation between India and Pakistan. Rubio is in direct contact with India and Pakistan. And India today accused Pakistan of launching hundreds of drones overnight as Islamabad denies the claim. Pakistan targeted 36 Indian sites with 300 to 400 drones on Thursday into Friday, an Indian military official said. An assertion denied by Pakistan. According to Indian military official Vyomika Singh, Pakistan's military carried out multiple violations of Indian airspace along the entire western border, with military infrastructure the intended target. He said along the international border and line of control, drone incursions were attempted from Leh to Sur Creek at 36 locations with approximately 300 to 400 drones, Singh told a Friday press briefing. She added that India's armed forces brought down a number of these drones. In response, India launched drones at 4 air defense sites in Pakistan, she said. And several areas in the Indian-controlled Kashmir, including Jammu and Uri, situated along the international border with Pakistan, came under heavy attack by artillery fire from Pakistan, said TV media reports late on Thursday. Quoting sources, the TV reports by India Today stated that the Indian armed forces retaliated and shot down 2 fighter jets belonging to the Pakistani Air Force. Okay, so lots of artillery shelling by Pakistan into India along the border. And 50 Pakistan drones were successfully neutralized 2 nights ago during a large-scale counter-drone operation conducted by the Indian Army air defense units. And India launched drone attacks on Pakistan early Friday morning, according to a senior Pakistani government source. Pakistan claims to have shot down 77 Indian drones over the past 24 hours. Wow. And India and Pakistan have repeatedly accused each other of launching aerial attacks since the conflict escalated Wednesday. India's army said Friday it also repelled multiple attacks from Pakistani drones and other munitions along their shared border overnight and warned it would respond with force to all nefarious designs. And the wreckage of an Indian S-400 air defense missile was found near Lahore in Pakistan. And India said numerous houses were destroyed by Pakistani shelling along the border with Pakistan, and explosions have been reported near the Srinagar airport in India, with at least 10 blasts heard in the area today. And there's reports of drone attacks on multiple Indian cities this afternoon. Okay, so the situation is continuing to spiral out of control, okay? And Pakistan's defense minister stated that not all Indian drones were intercepted, as doing so would risk exposing the locations of Pakistan's air defense systems. And in a video posted yesterday, Pakistan deployed Chinese 155mm self-propelled howitzers in Rawalkot, close to the line of control. And videos have surfaced on social media showing Pakistani civilians reportedly shooting down Indian drones with rifles. And Pakistan's army destroyed several Indian army checkposts along their disputed border in Kashmir in response to unprovoked firing from the Indian side. A Pakistan security source told CNN on Friday Pakistani troops destroyed checkpoints in 6 locations along the line of control that divides the disputed territory of Kashmir, the source said. And the government of India's capital, Delhi, has stopped civil servants from taking leave until further notice. Wow. So all civil servants in the capital of India are not going to be allowed to take any vacation days. And Pakistan has placed all civilian and government hospitals in their capital on high alert. And India said it carried out more strikes on Pakistan targeting air defense radars and systems. India reportedly shot down the Pakistani AWACS plane inside of Punjab province and 3 Pakistani fighter jets. And we're hearing that 24 airports in India are now closed. There's also new airspace closures over the Arabian Sea off the coast of India and Pakistan related to naval firing through May 13th. Okay, so it looks like India and Pakistan are going to start using their navies against each other now. And India has authorized the Chief of Army Staff to activate the Territorial Army amid growing tensions with Pakistan. The order issued on May 6th allows mobilization of all Territorial Army personnel, including 14 infantry battalions across multiple Army commands. The deployment order will remain in effect until February of 2028. Wow. Wow, so India activating their reserves and their National Guard. I'm hearing that this could amount to up to 200,000 troops, okay? And Pakistan's military killed 40 to 50 Indian troops so far along the de facto border with Indian-administered Kashmir, according to Pakistan's information ministry. And Pakistan and India had a massive dogfight involving 125 jets that lasted over an hour, one of the largest and longest in recent history, according to a Pakistani source. Missiles were exchanged from over 160 kilometers away, which is 100 miles, with neither side crossing the border. So this was the first night when India launched the Operation Sindoor, and they launched those strikes on the militant camps. Wow. Okay, the largest and longest dogfight in history, apparently. And French intelligence has confirmed to CNN that a French Rafale fighter jet was shot down by Pakistan, and it was operated by the Indian Air Force. And the Jerusalem Post is saying that the U.S. is no longer demanding Saudi Arabia normalize ties with Israel as a condition for progress on civil nuclear cooperation talks. Wow. So looks like relations between the Netanyahu and Trump administration are continuing to deteriorate. And we're hearing that Trump met with an Israeli strategic affairs minister by the name of Ron Dermer, a close confidant of Prime Minister Netanyahu, on Thursday, and discussed the nuclear talks with Iran and the war in Gaza, according to 2 sources briefed on the meeting. Trump will visit Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE next week, but will skip Israel. Isn't that interesting? The announcement came shortly after Israel carried out strikes on a major port and airport in Yemen in response to a Houthi attack on Tel Aviv's international airport. The Israelis were alarmed that Trump's ceasefire didn't apply to attacks on Israel. We were shocked that the Trump administration didn't tell us anything, and we learned about it from the TV, one Israeli official told Axios. So in case you guys are not aware, Trump signed a ceasefire deal with the Houthis, and the ceasefire deal only applies to American bases and ships and international shipping, but did not apply to Israel. So Israel feels like Trump stabbed them in the back. And Iran unveiled a new underground naval base, and Fox News obtained new satellite imagery of a brand new secret nuclear enrichment site in Iran. And the Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz warned, what we did to Hezbollah in Beirut, to Hamas in Gaza, to Assad in Damascus, and to the Houthis in Yemen, we will do to you in Tehran. So, wow, strong words there directed towards Iran. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to defend ourselves alone against Yemen's Houthi rebels after U.S. President Trump struck a deal with the Iran-backed group. On Wednesday, Netanyahu said Israel will defend itself by itself. In the past, Israel has carried out joint strikes with the U.S. against the Houthis, but 2 consecutive days of Israeli attacks on Yemen earlier this week were done alone. If others join us, our American friends, all the better. If they don't, we will still defend ourselves on our own, he said in a video posted on social media. Wow. So he was basically addressing all the concerns that, the U.S. was going to push Israel into some kind of a ceasefire deal and force Israel to capitulate. And U.S. President Donald Trump is reportedly disappointed with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel Hayom reports, citing 2 senior sources close to the president. According to the Hebrew Language Daily, in closed-door conversations, Trump said he was going to make progress on his objectives in the Middle East without waiting for Israel. Trump is also upset with Netanyahu and his circle over what he sees as an attempt to push the White House into military action against Iran's nuclear program, say the sources. Wow. Okay, so Netanyahu and Trump are no longer buddies, it looks like. And Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping hailed their country's relationship on May 8th, vowing to increase cooperation in all areas, including military ties. In a joint statement released during Xi's visit to Moscow amid the May 9th Victory Day celebrations, the 2 countries promised to strengthen coordination in order to decisively counter Washington's course of dual containment of Russia and China. In a show of unity against U.S. President Trump, the 2 countries disavowed the promotion of hostile approaches towards Russia and China by third countries in various regions of the world, as well as the discrediting of Russian-Chinese cooperation. Xi said earlier in the day on May 8th that he was pleased to take part in the Victory Day celebrations and that China and Russia are ready to defend the truth about the history of World War II. And the U.S. will be ready to walk away from the negotiating table if it does not see Russia making progress in negotiations to end the war, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance told Fox News yesterday. And Ukrainian intelligence has uncovered a Hungarian military spy network for the first time, detaining 2 spies in the Zakarpattia region. So this is in the Ukrainian Carpathians bordering Hungary. Key tasks of the spies included gathering intel on Zakarpattia's military defenses, identifying vulnerabilities in ground and air defenses, and assessing local political sentiments. Wow, so Hungary spying on Ukraine, okay, military intelligence. Wow. And France and Poland have signed a landmark treaty committing to a mutual military support in the event of a threat. The agreement, signed by Emmanuel Macron and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, also includes cooperation in energy, nuclear development, and transport infrastructure. And North Korea launched numerous short-range missiles into the East Sea earlier this week. North Korea said the missile test was conducted under a nuclear weapons defense system. Very interesting. And what you're looking at here is a new signal appearing on the primary U.S. nuclear war frequency. This is some kind of encrypted data that was being transmitted last night that I've never seen before, and many radio experts have never seen before. Okay, so the U.S. is using some kind of new encrypted data on their primary nuclear war frequency. And we have satellite imagery taken from Wednesday showing 2 U.S. B-52 nuclear bombers at Diego Garcia. Okay, and here you can see the 6 B-2 stealth bombers on the runway here. And then you have these 4 shelters, which I would imagine have bombers in them as well. So probably 10 stealth bombers. And we're hearing that 2 more B-52s have been moved after these 2 landed. So that's a total of 4 B-52s and 10 B-2s at Diego Garcia. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with more breaking news. In the meantime, check out my Patreon. Go to patreon.com/NYPrepper to get priority access to my breaking news updates with no advertisements. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.